processes did you use to kind of get through that time? Because I'm asking that question because this is a business where, you know, when people step into it, in many cases, you know, sometimes they come into a company, but in many cases they get introduced and look, they're stepping into a situation that's 100% commission. Yeah. You know, it's 100%. If it's meant to be, it's up to me. Right. What did you do to kind of get over that feeling?
I partnered up with my old boss, and he said, part-time, if you can just help and just do the commercial side, the brokerage side, then that can be your steady. And you could just work on your other side. He was like, you don't have to mix, but because you're already doing commercial, why don't you put your foot into our broker side, since they were, they were exclusive agency. They couldn't really do it. They didn't have anybody that was able to understand the different coverages that was needed. And I had gone that far. You see, so he brought me back on part-time to do that. So I was still able to get, a steady bit of money, but then also be able to get my commissions. During that time, I met Cherie, who introduced me to you guys, but she was in the same journey as well. And we just, any resources I had, I gave to her. Any resources she had, she gave to me. So just going out there and being vulnerable and saying, hey, I need help. Like, who can help me? Because nobody's going to raise their hand unless you put yourself in a position to say, I'm willing to learn. Nobody's going to say, I'm going to teach you something without you being willing and vulnerable enough to be 100% honest to the fact you don't know it all. Yeah. And you need a little bit of help in the beginning.
Absolutely. Two things I want to pull out, because whenever I'm in a conversation, I like to pull out the jewels. I like to pull out the gems where I'm hearing them. The first thing, the power of partnerships.
Yes.
You didn't say, hey, I'm going to step out and then I'm going to, burn our bridges. Right. You said, hey, look, how can I leverage the relationships that I have to support this new business that I'm starting? Mm-hmm. So that support being so crucial when you're getting started. I'm gonna come back to that. The other piece is asking for help.
Yes.
We can be very proud in our business and in our lives, right?
Right.
And we can't necessarily take for granted that people know what we need unless we say what that is as well. Let me go back to the first one. Okay. Just the power of just having partnerships, building those alliances. You started with your former boss. You said, hey, look, this is what I'm doing. Was it strange, uncomfortable to have that conversation, or did you have a great relationship and say, okay, well, I know it'll be easy to speak with him. And if it was very comfortable, how was that relationship kind of cultivated to that point?
So I didn't initiate the conversation, is what I'll say. When I was stepping out of, the exclusive world and saying I wanted to do this, I reached out to them, to him, and then also a manager that I had previously and said, I appreciate you taking me on, you teach me what I know, but I'm going to step out of this. I want to do something on my own. Within minutes, he was on my line and he said, Christina, I understand where you are and I'm going to support you. So whatever I can do to support you, I'm going to do it. And that's what he did. And so did the manager as well. And once I stepped into that, I was like, okay, I'm not having to do this alone. When I started to feel like, who can I turn to for, if I have questions, I started turning to the old agents that I had, talked to before and, rubbed elbows with before. And they were like, oh, you're doing it on your own. They were sending me referrals and asking me questions, because when I was in that position within that first agency, I wanted to soak up so much knowledge. I didn't shut any doors down. Anybody that was willing to teach me, I accepted it. So once I stepped into my own role as a as a broker, they were like, oh, hey, Christina, let me help you. Let me show you what we did. Let me show you who you should reach out to for this and the third, because I was always open to new resources and new information. I don't ever burn bridges within business. I don't ever do it. I may close a door, but with doors, you can always reopen them. I don't ever burn bridges.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, I just wanted to make sure, I pointed that out because sometimes people do feel like, oh, they gotta go it alone. And
Yes.
none of us is an island, no one, there's a term, self-made, right?
Right.
And in a sense, all of us are continuing to do what we can to be our best selves and to continue to improve on a day-to-day basis. But really, everyone has help, right? Like no one is 100% like self-made all the way. There's always, some contributing factors. So thank you for mentioning that as a piece, because it's important, for folks to know. So let's talk about the niche, the truckers niche, and focusing on that, because you said you got the call from the trucker. They were looking for some coverage. There's one solution, one option, and you said, hey, look, I need to find a better way. So you basically you found what the need was going to be. You said, hey, I'm going to build a business around it. Why truckers insurance? Because it could have been some other avenue as well.
Still to this day, that one trucker is still on my books. Because he said, it was one thing that he said. He said, nobody has ever taken the time to help me like this. And when he said, nobody has ever taken the time to help me like this, I said, well, this is what it's supposed to be. This is what it's supposed to be. And that's why I did truckers, because I said, I wonder how many other truckers feel like nobody has ever helped me like this. Nobody has ever told me this. Nobody has ever educated me like this. Truckers are they are their own business. And just like a restaurant or a school or a whatever, they need the insurance. It's a requirement. They cannot get in their truck and move it without it. And so why not? Why not be that resource to them? Why not explain to them why it is required, why they have to have higher limits? Because to them, they're thinking, well, I drive my truck every day. I've been doing it for 30 years. And I'm like, yes, but that big old body that you got back there is going to cause damage. It's going to be harmful to people. And I just felt called to do it. I felt called, like it was the time for me to step into who I was supposed to be. Absolutely. And I haven't looked back. I haven't swayed from it. I mean, there's been plenty of times where I was like, having a moment like, why me? Because like you said, I don't look like the trucker's insurance type of girl. And I'm like, well, why not me?
Yeah. Not to say that, hey, a trucker has to look a certain kind of way, because
no, but when you think about it, for some, I don't have any trucking background. I don't have a parent, a grandparent, anybody in the trucking industry. And for me, I'm like, when they're coming to me and they're saying to me, oh, I got this type of truck, I have no idea. Now I do, but before I didn't know anything about trucks. I didn't know how to keep them maintained. I didn't know anything about them. I just knew that I needed to help them. I knew that I needed to educate them. I knew I needed to prepare them, because at the end of the day, they're a need, and so is insurance. So why not?
That's right. It's it's really fascinating because, like you said, not having a background in that industry, and a lot of time, and in many cases, this is a legacy business, especially in niche markets like that. So to not have a background either in a trucking company or with an agency that focused on trucking insurance, but then to go out on your own and say, well, you know what, I'm going to focus on truckers insurance. Now, I just think that's like really cool. I just think it's phenomenal. And you had also mentioned just in some of the questions that we asked ahead that, you wanted to be a change, you wanted to be the change, just being a Black woman, in this business. I mean, just being, it's like you're already a minority being Black in the insurance industry, but then being a Black woman in the insurance industry. How was that for you initially, and how has the experience been for you?
It's crazy because when I first started in insurance, my agent was a Black man and the manager was a mixed woman. And so I didn't see anything different until I got licensed. And then I was like, well, there's nobody in these, continuing education classes that look like me. And I'm like, what is going on? And so I said, you know what? I'm going to buckle down. I'm going to learn it. I'm going to be good at it. I'm going to sell it, because I felt like, why not? Like, why why should I not step into the room proudly with my head held high, knowing that, just like how I said before, I didn't come from this. So when you ask me a question, I'm going to be able to answer it, because you're not going to think less than when it comes down to me because of who I am and what I look like. I'm going to be prepared with the answer for you. Sure. So I just always wanted, since I was in a position when I didn't understand insurance, I said, okay, well, since I didn't understand it, I'm going to learn about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then once I got into insurance and then that trucker situation, I said, oh, I'm going to learn about it. So each thing is just like, okay, well, I'm going to learn about it.
All right, nice. Okay, well, let me ask you this, you know, because what I can tell is that you're ever evolving.
Yes.
Right. How do you stay motivated, you know, now at this point in your business? You know, you've been, you know, doing this. You're 11 years licensed.
Yes.
Right. What's keeping you motivated now, and what's the goal? What's the next step for Christina Marie?
I guess what keeps me motivated, of course, is my kids. You know, I have 2 sons, one who is 15 and one who is 6. And when I deal with them, you know, when I first started this with my own agency, my own brokerage doing truckers, I remember trying to figure out how I was going to get clients. And my sons riding down the highway, looking at DOT numbers, and we were writing it down. I still to this day have a 5-subject notebook full of DOT numbers. And that keeps me, because I'm like, I remember when nobody was calling my phone. Now I'm working off of referrals of friends and people that never even done a policy with me. That keeps me motivated because I know I'm needed.
Yeah.
My kids need me to do this. These truckers need me to do this. They need a resource. They need an option, another option. Somebody's going to have their back. You know, somebody they can talk to. Some of the times they call me, they're like, why is this happening? They're not even calling me for, you know, a quote. They're like, why is this happening? What can I do? What can I tell them to do? So I'm doing it for them. I'm doing it for, you know, my kids to see like my mom is really out here killing it, you know. You know, we want to do something other than this when we see truck drivers. My kids are, you know, looking at DOT numbers like, Mama, you got insurance on that one? You know, that's what motivates me. And what do I see myself doing? And you know, what's my goal? My goal is to be the highest sought after Black woman who insures truckers in the Southeast region. That's what I want to do. I want to be that person. I want them to know who Christina Marie is when it comes down to truckers insurance. Just when they say Progressive, I want them to say, oh, Christina, did you talk to Christina? Because she can get you insured. That's what I want.
Christina Marie, that's the go-to. Yeah.
Yes, that's what I want.
Absolutely. And I also think it's really cool that, you know, you have your sons, like they get to see you kind of working in the business. Do you feel like, do you have a desire, you know, for them to kind of follow in your footsteps and take over the agency? And 2, do you feel like you're seeing any interest, you know, from them, maybe even from the 15-year-old that, you know, this is something that he might want to, you know, step into at some point?
So my sons, they look at me and they're like, that's a lot of work, Mom. Like, that's a lot of work. But I want them to see what I do and want to step into it, but I support them if they don't. My oldest son is wanting to be a mechanic. He wants to work on the trucks. He wants to get under it, you know, see get his hands dirty. That's where he is. My youngest son wants to drive them. He wants, in his mind, he's thinking like, oh yeah, I'm gonna I can drive those big trucks, you know. So I'm okay with them if they do not want to actually be in insurance, but I know that there are other people that are looking at me that are coming up. They're like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe Christina is doing that. They're wanting to learn it. So even if my kids don't want to do it, I know that I'm inspiring others to get into insurance.
Absolutely. And you're in South Carolina.
Yes.
Your office. Okay. But native New Yorker.
Yes. Yes.
So and you're covering the Southeast region primarily. Right. So what states are you licensed in and doing business in right now?
So I do South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia, Florida. I do Alabama, Arkansas, Missouri, and I do New York. And I do Texas.
That's what I was gonna ask. I was gonna say, well, are you doing New York too?
I do New York just because, just in case somebody wants to get in a big rig, I definitely do New York just to support my family.
No, awesome.